What's up, everybody? Well, no intro song for today. You know, I'm probably going to be phasing those out because I've noticed the only songs that I'm really good at singing are Irish songs and, excuse me, whistling while not having my microphone plugged in. So, yeah. Getting back into exercising, which is good because I got a little soft there for a while, you know? And, men aren't at their best when they're soft, that's for sure. Men are liable to make much worse decisions when they're neglecting their physical health. This is the foundation of the male psyche, physical health, and the ability to do stuff and affect projects. And a woman is the same way, but her project is specifically specialized to raising a child. That's her pride and joy. I think Iran has been operating so far with the realization that it is not Israel that is their enemy, but the rogue leadership of Israel and the handful of U.S. politicians it has at its disposal that have hijacked the processes. Hopefully, the rest of the world has been cooking up some kind of major contingency plan to off-ramp the burgeoning global war, which it seems like they want to do. Just, are they actually putting pen to pad and effecting a plan? Well, we'll see, because smoke is rising from Tel Aviv and Tehran at the same time, and the off-ramp is basically the total destruction of civilian Israel and two-thirds of the structures of Iran to be reforged around an encomienda system of the remaining one-third who's willing to sell their morals out, like the indigenous people of Central and Southern America in the Spanish encomienda system that sold out their kin, exchanged cultural information, and served as generals enslaving their very brothers and sisters for the invading force. That's effectively what they want. I've already heard a lot of people saying, Persia was so great. Israel loves Persia. That's that whole Bet David, that Iranian guy that's very famous on the talk show cycles. That's that mindset. It's just like, oh, Iran was good when it had women in bikinis, but then for no reason, don't look at our own government's history. Iran turned into a Muslim theocracy after a revolution. Don't ask where that revolution was funded, where it got its weapons, where it came from, and why it happened, but specifically focus on that weak point of it, which means that it's pretending to be a revolution, which is a progressive, if not liberal thing, while reverting back to their 1,000-year-old cultural philosophy, which was never really all that firm inside of Persia. And so they have this synthesis of the Shia, mindset and old Persian practices in Iran and have this entire time. But ultimately, it's just another Afghanistan. It's an Afghanistan that is 4 times as big, that is twice as mountainy. So the problems that we had dealing with Iraq and dealing with Afghanistan were the amount of mountains that people could hide inside of. And that problem is significant. It might be like legitimately, Ethiopia and Iran might be legitimately some of the most mountainous countries on the entire planet, given the fact that the percentage of mountains inside of their borders compared to non-mountainous regions. Iran would be a legitimately impossible ground invasion to accomplish any sort of major goalpost. It is a great, forever, indefinite, regime-changed project that never will actually accomplish anything positive for their country or for our country other than the trafficking of human bodies into various slavery rings that the United States and Israel has set up, most notably the one in Libya after the Hillary Clinton and Nikolai Sarkozy deposed Muammar Gaddafi, and, the sovereign head of Libya. But hey, we'll see how it, like, Israel may have underground stuff, but its ability, it's a massive importer. Like, it's basically a city. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, they've already set up trade lines to the east. They've already set up BRICS trade lines. So they'll be fine in the event of a complete and utter, like literally the United States, Israel, and Britain turning into the new Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. The literal, the three against everybody else. It's entirely possible that America as Germany, England as Italy, and Israel as Japan. Specifically, I've actually thought about this a lot. They align best to these. Spoke about this before. Will end up isolating themselves further, as we've already done in the last year and a half, and end up being dismantled by a coalition that was assembled that involved 75 to 90% of the rest of the country. Rest of the world, rest of the planet. Anyways, get ready for all the alt-right NPCs to take out their hate Arab chips and put in their hate Turk ones, because they just gotta, they gotta mention how bad Muslims are, and then they gotta hop from one race to another when they're putting races down. It's very, very sad. It's very, very sick. It's part of the toolbox, Okay, time to put the Arabs away as the bad guy. Now we're pulling out the bad Iranians. We're pulling out the bad Turks, because Iran has been mostly promulgated by the Turkish race over the last 150 or so years. Makes about sense. There was like a Persian cultural revival 200 or so years ago that essentially got smacked down during World War I. People don't know this, but Persia was the single biggest loser in World War I. They lost 2 million men, more than anybody else, like significantly more than most other actors on the stage. Very, 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 very bad losses. And yeah, after that they kind of reverted back to their Turkish foundation, because the Persian revival was just that. It was a cultural revival of an ancient time. It's as if America were to here's a better example. It's as if England were to, as they actually are in little bits, revert back to Catholicism. They would never be truly Catholic, but they would have it in name only, and that would collapse after a while and go back to Anglicanism, or the weird secular atheism that Londoners have, of which, mind you, Indians from India are now the number one landowner demographic in London, higher than the English themselves. Legacy of the Raj, man. Legacy of the Raj. And mind you, working with Indians and working with Israelis is like exactly the same thing based on everybody in the field. Israelis are a little bit more competent, like I'm not with words. But it still has the same like super low morality. Like, always got to look out. You always got to check, keep your wallet on a chain around Indians or Israelis. You really, really, really do. Unironically, this is what everybody says. Yeah. I think Elon might actually be telling the truth about Trump and the Epstein files. Here's the thing. He did kick Jeffrey out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep and trying to invite women at his club to be masseuses for him. Masseuses, that's sex work. Apparently, he only visited the island once. Apparently, he met Melania in these circles and rescued her. Now, here's the thing. Oftentimes, an adventurer goes to unknown and strange lands. Sometimes they wander into places they don't understand. But what makes the foolish adventurer into a hero is saving the princess, slaying the dragon, and escaping from darkness to rejoin the light with everything that you've achieved. This is the archetypal hero's journey. This is you as you loose the things binding you to this world, suffer with dignity, and emerge from your meditation with the shining brilliance amplified by the dark you were immersed in. This is the thing that alchemists always get twisted when they say as above, so below. Just like, well, we're not egalitarian, but the light truly does shine the brightest in the darkness, but it actually has to shine. Otherwise, it's just darkness. This is Christ dying, descending to hell, slapping the devil across the face, and unlocking the gates of that early purgatory of Sheol, freeing all those who had their hearts weighed against a feather and were not found wanting, and rising back to life, and eventually up to heaven, to be seated at the right hand of God. The Talmud says Jesus is in hell. because they, like any good liar, acknowledge just enough of reality to spin a believable fable. But they leave out the part where he beat their torture, which is 100% what he did. And in many ways, this is also Christianity itself emerging from the Iron Age paganism the Pharisees enjoyed exalted positions over throughout much, much bloodshed and much, much sacrifice. Self-sacrifice, mind you. Not the sacrifice of other people, as you see in Israel today. Self-sacrifice. Martyrdom. Trump himself has been down the spiritual depths of humanity. And he actually saved Melania. You might not know this, but she was actually saved by Trump from human trafficking circles. The princess. And she has been his muse in regards to driving him to conquer evil. Only Israeli Talmudists might have compromat on him, somewhere along the line involving this entire situation, and they will try to trap him in hell. Trap him in his past. Erase his free will. It seems there's a very long plan in motion as we speak, where Protestant Christians are purposely diverted away from scientific understanding and towards apocalyptic thinking. And mind you, I'm absolutely not writing off Catholic apocalypticism. However, it's starkly different, both in verbiage and in motion. And this natural cycle of intense solar activity that peaks every 30 or so years, which has been continuing throughout the entire time, this last 2,000 years and back into prehistory, has been presented to them as a reason to indulge the psychopathic ritual of human sacrifice of Middle Easterners to usher in the second coming. This is exactly the same as the Aztecs driving knives into the chests of victims so that they can appease the angry sun god. Specifically because there's always been these solar cycles that make things very, very difficult for anybody living around the equator at this particular time, and things get hot. Things get hot. If you live in a city in a heat sink, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Things get hot. That's when the murder rate goes up. But there will not be a Messiah on horseback with a flaming sword. There will be an unstoppable movement that works with indestructible truth someday. But there will not be a parting of the clouds, nor a descending of a savior from them. All that you're doing is forgetting the human sacrifice made 2,000 years ago. That was followed by the self-sacrifice of thousands to usher in the Edo Domine, the years of our Lord, the years of God, the years of Christendom, the years of Christ. What we are allowing is that chapter of humanity be closed, and Nietzsche has shown his work. Germany was destroyed after indulging this very misstep, and now the entire world follows fast after. To hell on earth. And you know what? If there's a riot in your town, you should be allowed to get a hotel and write it off on your taxes. And if there's any damage, insurance should cover it fully. There's no reason why that's not impossible, other than the fact that everything is broken and people accept that as the shifting baseline standard. You know, older people are like, what the heck? What is all this crap? I can't believe, you can't do all these things that you used to be able to do that makes your life better and makes people more productive. Whereas young people go, yeah, that's just the way it is. It's called shifting baseline syndrome. Every generation is used to less and less if we're moving in the wrong direction. So, it's time to get it together. We can do better. We absolutely can do better. I like percentages. Longtime listeners might know I'm a big fan of fractions. But percentages are nifty little dynamics to induce generations raised on loading screens into a ballpark estimate on the pie chart. Very fascinating. It allows you a lot of room to mess up because it got 100 degrees, of calculation that you can make. Or you can subdivide those 100 degrees, but mainly 100 degrees, 1 out of 100% percentages. I watched Matt of the Internet for the first time in like a year. And I hate to say it, it was really, really boring. Like I just shut it off, just recently. Like, more boring than ever. I've noted that his streams have gotten worse and worse since he started receiving donations. Like, and it didn't happen all at once, but like it was a slow, steady thing. But this one was truly awful. His voice is just bad, first of all, okay? I mean, like, I've heard him move his voice down. I've heard him straighten his sinuses. And I've heard him speak in a more reasonably enjoyable and thoughtful way that isn't just, oh, throwing the voice from here to fear. No, like, genuinely actually train your voice to the point where that's the norm. Instead of talking like this all the time, or I can't do his voice because, like, my voice is nasally enough, but my nasalness is down by the front. Some people's voice is nasally up by the top, and, that's, I got the depth comes through up until it hits the front, and then it's got, like, a nasally curve to the end of it, right? It's a very common thing in Celtic people. And we know Noel's genealogy. We know he's only 0.5% Jewish, 5% sub-Saharan African. But for whatever reason, he still talks like he's just drank a big glass of milk. And maybe he needs to lose a little weight. And then the pressure on the sides of his sinuses will drop. And he'll be able to actually, But I guarantee you, like, bro, if you drop your jaw and you shift your focus isometrically to both the top of your chest and the bottom of your gut, and you really try to move with all the air and strength and muscles possible in that general region, and you do this off the camera naturally, you will notice yourself slowly shifting your voice down and flexing those muscles. And then eventually you'll be able to walk. You gotta stumble around at first, and you might not want to do that in front of the camera. But I've heard you do it before. You're entirely capable of doing it by will when you're serious about things, so you really should drop your voice. Now, of course, I'm talking to Noel like he's gonna listen when he's not gonna listen to this. And since he's not going to listen to this, I won't feel bad about the criticism I'm gonna levy about his show, because I am a long-time listener and very involved, or at least I was at the very beginning. So let's get into it a little bit. More importantly than his voice, everything he said was things that I've known about for weeks. Now, I know he's coming back after being on break for a couple of weeks, but, like, that's not only is it the stuff that everybody knows, it's the stuff that everybody already knows. So it's the very top of the iceberg. Everybody already sees that. Everybody's seen it. We've moved past it. And now you're noticing those things. Not very entertaining. I know I take the notes, and sometimes I'm a little far back. But because of the structure of my show, my stuff isn't as easily dated. I try and consciously keep it from being easily dated by avoiding politics and topicals. It was so slow and so unfunny. Sad to see, but at least I'm not missing anything these days. He also played the same exact song twice, and played it all the way through both times. Just abysmal stuff. Unfortunately, the exact thing I was worried about, Zionist infiltration of a truly free speech forum and the hijacking of other people's work at the cost of consistent bribes to the forum mayor, seems to have taken place. It's all he really concerns himself with these days, and I give you my word that he did not used to. I give you my word he did not used to care about Israel. It was a joke. He said, I love Israel as an ironic joke, kind of referencing back to the Deagle Nation days, and very obviously pointing fun at how James Bond commando the Israelis think they are in their heads, and their stupid big lunky gun that's terrible, that is more of like a piece of metal to flex than an actual gun. And I've said this before, Jace is off with Sam Hyde, specifically because a lot of the people don't recognize why, he's recently went bald. Who's this skinny guy? Alex Schultz. People don't understand why Alex Schultz, who is so talented and so funny, but also very shy, is with that comedy troupe, it's because of their beliefs. It's because of their deeply held beliefs of what they truly believe and the direction that they want to inspire people to move towards. It isn't just the immediate business structure of MDE. It is the fact that Sam, Nick, and Charles, to a lesser extent, all genuinely want what's best for young, like Charles definitely to a lesser extent, all genuinely want what's best for young men, and are genuinely, consistently, unlike Null, who is inconsistent, who has been both sides of the situation, are critical towards the very parasites, regardless of their race and their country, and how much terrorism that they've inflicted on innocent, guilty, etc. populations in order to intimidate everybody, including, people like Null, intimidating them by terrorizing people, using terrorism to get their way. Sam and Nick aren't about that. Genuinely, they're not about that life. And that's why I believe that Alex and all the other guys are coming along and they're contributing and they care because they believe in the movement. They believe in the direction that it's wanting to take. The zeitgeist that is it's crafting, not just attaching to somebody else's zeitgeist consistently, all the way dating back to like not creating the website that you now claim, latching on to somebody else's work this entire time, dragging your feet when it comes time, like in 2023, to actually put some work in and fix some problems. Despite the fact that a vast majority of his website disagrees, he has chosen the tyrant's path, as I had feared. I found myself losing attention and wandering off, and I can say definitively that my show is both more interesting and more frequent than Null's. Even though I'm in a bit of a scheduling lull, I guarantee you I will be back to regularly scheduled programming before long. And it has significantly less bloat. I take my notes, I refine my notes, I don't just play videos for you, and I don't think I'll ever do that. I would very much like to be able to craft jokes and put up graphics that I create myself. Maybe even write them down with my hands. That's what I would like. I would not like to be your Zero Penguin Zero, Asmongold, like playing a video and saying, wow, chat, that's so crazy, chat. Type 1 if you think that's crazy. Type 2 if you're just like, yeah. I give you my word, I'll never be about that. Longtime viewers might remember, I was watching and participating in his chat of his streams, Man of the Internet, since the very beginning. It's like the 4th or 5th episode. I've seen its transformation, and let me say, like H3H3, it does not pass the mustard of entertainment these days, despite the fact that it used to. It really, really did, all the way dating back to the Internet Juche stream. That's probably the line when it started to become actually entertaining. Before then, he was like screwing around on Discord, and you had too many people coming in and coming off, and too much empty space and stuff like that. It wasn't good. It just wasn't good. But by the time the Internet Juche stream came out around the time where we had these like early Riot streams, sitting down watching, I think it was France burn? I can't quite remember, but I do remember the Internet Juche stream. And that was when the stuff really started to get good, and he used to stream video games, and he used to be stream tier lists, he used to be very involved in the stuff that his people would send him, and like very interesting stuff. Now he is just like any of the other streamers. You can watch any streamer and get the exact same thing that you get from Null, which is crazy, given the fact that the guy wants to be so edgy. Like being edgy, setting yourself apart from the middle by being on the edge, and you're so normie with the things that you present because you're so scared of rocking the boat and getting your little tenuous little situation upset, Oh well. He also checked the IP of one of his users on stream whose VPN bounced to India, and it gave me the ick. No privacy. Shoot, I remember way back in the day he would actually use people's IPs to farm crypto on his site, with his site. That only lasted for a tiny brief period, but it must be noted when a leader does things like that. I liked his segment on homosexuals, however. He said the exact same thing before multiple times, but it's accurate and it needs to be said. However, he did not have to actually play the Glenn Greenwald sex tape on stream. That was not necessary. It's not necessary at all. Of course, Glenn Greenwald criticized Israel, so, pathetic. 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 Like, cowardly behavior. Truly cowardly behavior. Oh, well. He'll learn eventually. He'll get the hard road of life rising up to meet him, and he'll learn eventually. Don't rule him out. He's my little brother. He gets a little spunky sometimes, but his heart it means well. It might not always be in the right place, but inside he means well. He wants to do the right thing. He hasn't worked on adapting that into his physical life, like really like sinking into his deeper parts and like meditating himself, shaping himself, exercising physically, and like freeing himself, achieving kenosis so that he may be filled by God through his religious practices. Instead, it's very petty, very childish, very low IQ, very low aura behavior, and like it isn't surprising that the website is kind of actually getting less and less popular, despite the weird numbers that pop up, probably from international communities. It's getting less and less popular with down-to-earth conservative Americans, specifically because of the cancer of Zionism that's growing inside of the website. You'll literally see, like he posted Israel-Iran war. You'll see the same two Zionists posting like 5 times a page, and there's only 20 posts a page, so it's literally like half of the posts in this thread are from these people that are normally in a containment zone where they can talk about the things that they specifically want to talk about with impunity in their containment thread. Now it's a thread for everybody, and you have these punctuated points about, Jews thinking that they rule the world, stuff like that, and then you have all this, like, JIDF propaganda, 50% of the posts every page, and it's just shot through with 2 of the 3 musketeers, 2 of the dumber of the 3 musketeers for the JIDF. You got I Guy, you got Taste the Rainbow, and then you got Mary Kiwi Fruit Growers, and Mary Kiwi Fruit Growers is the one with the soul, and Catch the Rainbow is absolutely retarded. And I Guy is significantly more intelligent than the other 2, and he's significantly better at actually selling the JIDF narrative to people. And those people have like really, and I've been noting this over the last couple of months of watching, like literally going back to the website for the first time in a year and looking at it, just like, what is this cancer? You have like an obvious problem here. This is like a parasitic infestation, dude. I want to bring out the delouser because this is bad. It's just jokes, guys. Don't get your panties in a knot. He used to mention true facts of life like Israel manufacturing the most hormone replacement therapy of any country and being one of the most pro-gay countries on the planet. He used to stand against the ones threatening to debank and deplatform. Now he defends them with joy and glee in his voice. Just because the intensity has been dialed up compared to the transgender argument, that means he doesn't stand for free speech and blunt truth-telling like he pretended he was for the last couple of years. Just hatred towards a target that's easy to hate, the lowest common denominator. People that were easy to hate before they became transgender, very, very likely. I often wonder what life would have been like if I had become his registered agent and advised him through October 7th and onwards. I would have implored him to take as broad and omniscient a scope as his technology is capable of, and to remain neutral as possible, like Switzerland. But naturally, he doesn't like Switzerland. Like, I would, neutral. Maybe not like Switzerland. Truly neutral. Like Sealand. I think it's kind of funny that he told me directly. He told me directly, even though he said before that he's never talked to me. He's talked to me several times. He told me directly that poetry was gay, but you come to find out he likes rap. That's... wow, bro. He gets all offended when I call him the N-word. Genuinely inconsistent stuff coming from our pre-Alzheimer's pizza-loving lad. Like, bro, if you're gonna act like that, I'm gonna call it like it is. I had to tap out of the H3H3 segment. An hour to say 2 sentences worth of information. iDubbbz stinks, and iDubbbz boxing coach was embarrassed, and his wife is a sex trafficking victim. That's the only thing, and it took an hour. It took an hour of basically, like, it was approaching an hour of my time, so I was just like, okay, I'm off. I'm not gonna be coming back next week. Like, really, the H3H3 stuff is so boring. So boring, and it's just like, yes, this guy is very pathetic, but he's not funny, and that prevents him from being a lolcow, you know. And that's the zeitgeist of the site. As much as like horror cows are a fascinating topic, one like clutched onto by seemingly more females than males, and the like very mentally disabled Cyrax people. I think a lot of the people are into Cyrax for the same reason why I was into Chris Chan. Chris Chan was living with parents that were significantly older than his peer group's parents. So he basically had a generational skip. He was being taught, you know, greatest generation stuff as Gen X, instead of being taught boomer stuff as Gen X, which is Gen X stuff. And he has all this weird, like, classic American, especially back in the day, classic American spirit in him. That's specifically because of the same thing that I had, which is my parents gave birth to me in their 40s, and thus, thankfully I'm not autistic. I got checked out. I'm all fine, and thus, I have a different generational endowment of knowledge and wisdom than the other people in my peer group, which have Gen X parents, whereas I have boomer parents. See, that is what the thing that originally drew me towards consistently watching Chris Chan all the way back in high school, like freshman year of high school. That's how long I've been watching Chris Chan. Over a decade. It's like a decade and a half, actually. And like, I was as like deeply involved. My culture was Kiwi Farm's culture, and I was driven out of the website by consistent liars who do not contribute to any thread. People that actually drove me out do not contribute to any thread. I can list them on like one hand, and I know all of them just dwell in DMs all day. So what was Null actually doing? Null got tricked. Null straight up got deceived. He got tricked the same way as he's being terrorized into supporting Israel and thinking H3H3 is good and is going to somehow give him some money somewhere along the line if he keeps talking positively about him. Nah, man. I do really, really wonder what things would have been like if I would have been his advisor. Because I really would have gone to my death defending him choosing the right path. And that's what I genuinely thought. There's something to think about, you know? Anyways, Boss Man's back, baby! Yeah! I knew he'd make it out. Rats can't keep a good Gamba man down, but for real. I really hope he manages to straighten up a bit and stick just to the Gamba cycles. But knowing what we know about Boss Man, he actually does drugs when he's up, not when he's down. So, when he's flying high on those prime dopamine hits, he's got to cap it off and go, no mas. Which would actually allow him to cash out and buy the Civic. Which would get him kicked out of the casinos, and the content, well, would run dry. Very tenuous spot he's in, but he's out, baby. We'll see how the adventure goes. We'll see if he can turn into a true hero. He just has to save, you know, vulnerable part of himself, you know, endure through hardships. It's gonna be tough, but he's got every capability. No. You know, I really expected Yair Netanyahu to look like Uday Hussein or El Chapo's son. You know, average Miami nightlife. But no! He's just a baby! He's just a little boy! You've heard of child soldiers. Now get ready for child dictators, baby! Nah, just kidding. He ain't going nowhere. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy doesn't get shot. Alright, y'all. You know, the Good fat episode for you. Cheers.